I'm Christina Giacobbe, the Chief Administrative Officer here at the Cambridge Police Department. I've been here for about 10 years, and Commissioner Haas, we were lucky enough to have him as selected for Police Commissioner back in 2007.
One of the things that struck me when I came to Cambridge 6 years ago was that we really didn't have any focus on juveniles and families. We really kind of treated any kind of case involving anybody committing a criminal offense all the same. So if a juvenile committed a juvenile offense, went to a detective, a general detective, would investigate the case, and then would either decide to take out charges or not take out charges. And that was kind of an on-off switch. The other thing that kind of struck me is that officers quite often, because they understood what the alternative was, were forced with making two decisions. One, if they encountered a juvenile committing a minor offense, would typically just broom, what they call in our vernacular, broom the situation, send kids on their way. So if you came across a group of kids at 2 o'clock in the morning in the park drinking, more times than not, the officer would just send them on their way home. And that could happen repeatedly, sending the wrong message over and over and over again to a child until they committed a transgression. It was serious enough that they found themselves at the wrong end of a criminal investigation and going to court. I've long held the belief that really that the juvenile system and the adult system are two different systems, have two different philosophies. And the way we were approaching it was there was no distinction between how we dealt with juveniles that committed offenses and adults who committed offenses. I really believe that it's really supposed to be a teaching experience. It's an opportunity for kids to learn from their mistakes, understand that if there are consequences, they have responsibilities back to the society in which they come, and hopefully by learning from their mistakes, they're not going to find themselves going down the path of making a series of bad choices.
We did a department-wide training, Strategies for Youth, and it was about juvenile justice and mental health and how to just talk to young people. And then with Commissioner Haas in 2007, we introduced policies that would help the officers guide them in better decision-making processes for underage drinking or different offenses that they would be handled differently to preserve the future of the young people that we were dealing with.
So what we did is we had the entire department go through Strategies for Youth. Actually, we've had a couple training modules that took place. We had a more recent one with just the officers in the unit. But that kind of training is critical for all the officers to understand what the philosophy is and what we're trying to achieve through this approach. I think what's happened and what's been difficult for us, and I think it's difficult for them, is that this is a complete departure from the way they were trained and orientated. I think they recognize the fact that the approaches that we used before really don't apply when we're dealing with youth and families. So the officers that are assigned to the Youth and Family Services unit basically are taking on a very different function. So right now the way the unit's structured, it has a lieutenant in charge of the unit. A sergeant oversees what we're now calling youth resource officers. There's 6 of those. 2 of them are assigned to the high school, and the other 4 are assigned to now the upper schools and the feeder schools that feed into the upper schools. And then we have 3 officers that we call our youth outreach officers, who basically work primarily during the evening hours in the youth centers, and we have 2 juvenile detectives. So you see the ratio. Our juvenile detectives really are focusing on those kinds of cases that may have to be referred to court, versus 3/4 to 7/8 of the unit really focusing on the diversion piece or the community-based piece, really working with the large majority of the cases on the community side. And when we say it's community-based, it's truly community-based. We don't introduce kids into the court system. It's deliberate. There's almost like a China wall between those cases that we may bring to the courts versus what we're doing in terms of leveraging community services and really working with the families. Quite honestly, they've been remarkable in terms of being flexible enough and resilient enough to kind of adapt to it. We're seeing them struggle, but you would expect to see that. But that's an indication to me they're really trying hard to think about the new approach that we're asking them to do. Every officer has the opportunity to opt out of the unit, so they're not there. They're only there by choice. They're not there because they're required to be there. They all applied to be in the unit. We actually went through a second series of interviews just to reaffirm with them that this is the work they wanted to do.
Just add to what Commissioner Haas said, that the prevention component is huge, because we've gone out there and developed relationships with young people through the youth programs, through summer camps, through boxing programs at the YMCA and late night basketball leagues. There's already established relationships among police officers and the youth, so when something does occur, it's much easier to get the youth and the family to talk with us, because there's already established relationships. So the prevention piece has been crucial in our successes, because our officers are seen throughout the community as regular people. They're police officers, but they're also approachable, and the young people feel that they have the ability to talk with them and are not afraid of them. So I think that promotes our legitimacy also, is by continuing to develop relationships with young people through all the youth programs in the city.
It wasn't a situation where we were simply going to have it as a police initiative and a police initiative alone. So really we made sure our school partners were there, Department of Human Services were there, and Cambridge Health Alliance there, namely Dr. Jamie Barrett, who's still on staff with us, and our child psychologist who works closely with the officers in the unit. Our goal, quite honestly, is to see a significant drop in terms of our delinquency rate, which we've already seen. It's gone down almost, I think last summer we had 2 physical arrests in a community of 105,000 people. So that really is remarkable. This is an urban environment, it's a city. You would expect not to see that limited number of arrests, but yet we have a great number of interventions that are taking place, which means that we're being very attentive to our youth and family and working with them along with our partners. When we started looking at data, we saw a significant, and when I use the word significant, I mean statistically significant drop in terms of the amount of arrests that are taking place as the unit continued to evolve. I think we went from almost 100% arrest, no summonses, to almost a complete reversal of that. So if there are cases being referred to the court, it's not through the method of arresting a child. Where the unit is today is never where I envisioned it would be when I started in 2007. As Christine indicated, we were thinking simply about diversion. Now we're thinking about prevention and intervention, and really in a way that's really systematic and methodical. I think it's a matter of economics. I think in the way I always look at things is investment and return. And my view, quite honestly, is we made a significant investment in terms of creating a unit out of whole cloth. We didn't have grant money to do this. We really took officers off our existing roster. But my belief was that if we made this investment, we worked with family and youth, that it would pay off in the sense that we'd see less juvenile crime on the back end. So in essence, we're not being reactionary any longer. We're really trying to intervene early. I think we're actually doing much more meaningful work. And I think as we continue to look at our numbers, we are starting to see a decline, a precipitous decline in juvenile crime taking place, because it doesn't even reach that crescendo or level any longer.